Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Genovese, Director of Consulting at EnerCom, and I'm joined today by Stephen Brooks. He's the Chief Commercial Officer for American Hydrogen. Incredible story. Stephen will be presenting at 9:15 a.m. at the Energy Venture Investment Summit. That's on campus in Golden, Colorado, February 16th and 17th. He'll be presenting 9:15 a.m. on Thursday, the 17th. So it's going to be a great early morning presentation. We hope that you're registered to join us. Stephen, welcome today.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be here.
You bet. I'm really excited to hear more about American Hydrogen. So for our viewers that haven't had a chance to maybe check you out on the web, why don't you give them a little bit of background about what American Hydrogen does?
Sure, Dan. So just at a very high level, American Hydrogen is a hydrogen generation company. Now, under that generation umbrella, there's a myriad of different things that you could play. If you're familiar at all with the hydrogen space, you've got green, gray, and blue, and all of the colors of the rainbow going to classify the stuff. Where we like to sit is in the blue hydrogen generation space, or at least that's our focus at present. And so our primary service offering are modular distributed hydrogen generation facilities that are made more sustainable by adding a carbon capture component to them. And so when I say modular and distributed, we're not talking about refinery scale hydrogen generation. Instead, we're talking about smaller, suit to fit, generation sided by the point of consumption. And so 1, 5, or 10 ton modular scalable SMR hydrogen generation facilities. And so, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, given that modular sizing, who would be the customer? Who would be your client? Who would want to install something like this? Who would be the target?
Sure. So I think it's helpful to back up and I can kind of present how we got to this point. And so American Hydrogen is a startup, but not in the traditional sense. We're a joint venture between two former oil and gas companies who have made strategic bets as to where they play in their energy transition. And so the two parents of American Hydrogen, one of them is Lone Cypress Energy Services, which Lone Cypress has traditionally functioned as a project management and EPC firm for the development of midstream infrastructure. And so think pipeline gathering systems, cryogenic facilities, amine treating systems, essentially everything from wellhead to burner tip. Lone Cypress has made its history in developing that form of infrastructure. Our partner, Reset Energy, is based in Midland, and they are an original equipment manufacturer for what has traditionally been oil field components. And so stabilizer systems, treating systems, large integral components to these infrastructure projects. That is where Reset has made its history. And so together, Lone Cypress and Reset have a long history of successful execution experience, where Lone Cypress would function as a project manager and EPC, and Reset would do the engineering design and manufacturing for the equipment that went into our projects. And so in 2019, we made our foray into hydrogen under the American Hydrogen banner, where Lone Cypress and Reset play these same roles, but we've just shifted to now focus on hydrogen. And so Lone Cypress still functions as a project manager and EPC to implement the assets, do construction operations, and Reset does all of our manufacturing and engineering design for our SMR and all the balance of plant equipment. And so together, we're leveraging our long history of execution experience in oil and gas into this new hydrogen economy, where a lot of our experience and skill sets translate very, very well. And so when we talk about customer segments, we're seeing a myriad of different customers, right? You have your traditional users of hydrogen, your refineries who are using hydrogen to facilitate the crude oil refining process, your ammonia producers, fertilizers, but you're also seeing new market segments develop as the world pushes to decarbonize. And so thinking things like transportation or materials handling, telecommunications, or distributed backup power. All these sectors represent opportunities where we can decarbonize, shifting from traditional forms of energy like diesel, natural gas, or oil into hydrogen. Now, whether that hydrogen comes from renewables or comes from SMR, it's suit to fit for the project. But the lane we want to stay in is this distributed hydrogen generation, where it makes economic sense in the short term, but it's decarbonized, kind of riding this trend of energy transition.
Yeah, so clearly a problem that you're solving and a competitive advantage. Sounds like, the integration, the suite of technologies, the turnkey solution and integration in the hydrogen space.
Yes, absolutely. And we're seeing that because the space is so infant, it's necessitating a fully versed offering. a lot of people want hydrogen, but don't understand the steam methane reformation process. They just want the hydrogen as the commodity, and we're willing to provide that. And so if you're an Amazon and you have a distribution center and all of your forklifts are running on hydrogen, it doesn't necessarily make sense for you to install your own hydrogen facility, right? And so we offer where we would come and sell you the hydrogen on a take or pay basis. If you do want to hold the hydrogen facility on your balance sheet, we can turnkey the facility for you. And then we see other customers who maybe they're a little bit more involved in their technical understanding of how hydrogen works, but they haven't been able to find technology at this scale. And so we're working with large prominent EPCs who are working on their own projects who need just technology and equipment, and we're okay to just sell them our IP as well. And so under that technology banner, we hold patents regarding our SMR, as well as our hydrogen storage. We have an underground hydrogen storage patent as well. And so it started there, but we've seen that we need to integrate downward to service these customers who kind of meet these varying needs, right? Which are all different depending on the use case of hydrogen.
Yeah, so the value proposition for, it's two sides, one for customers and then for investors. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that as we look to wrap up.
Sure, absolutely. From a customer standpoint, you really have two different customer segments. You have the people who are using hydrogen today, and they need it not from a sustainability standpoint, right? Just from a pure energy standpoint. These are your refineries, your ammonia producers who need hydrogen as a feedstock for those applications. For that customer segment, they rely on industry incumbents like your Air Liquides or your Paxairs who rely upon large centralized forms of hydrogen generation, typically at a refinery scale. What those producers will do is service anchor tenants, for instance, a refinery, but then there are other customers who don't need as much hydrogen. And so they will put that hydrogen in a trailer tube and ship it to you. And so if you're a customer in this value chain, you're not only bearing the expense of the production, but also the expense of the transportation elements. Right. And so for us, our unitized production basis might be a little bit higher than someone, say, producing hydrogen at a refinery scale, but we're eliminating the need for transportation economics. And so if you're a marginal consumer of hydrogen, this makes sense as an immediate solution for you because it's cheaper just from an economic standpoint. And so you have that customer base who are using hydrogen today. But then you have this emerging customer base of the future who are looking to hydrogen, not necessarily for the economics, right? But the fuel switch from a diesel, right, or a gasoline to make it more sustainable. And so for those customers, we are in an advantaged position because all of our facilities operate under the sustainable moniker of being blue, whereas industry incumbents are scrambling now to figure out how to make their supplies more sustainable. And so our advantage from a customer perspective is that suit to fit bespoke solutions for those of us who need hydrogen today and are not necessarily worried about the sustainability component, as well as flexibility and the ability to site sustainable hydrogen generation for this new segment or market for sustainable blue hydrogen. Now switching over from customers to investors, when we talk about what is the opportunity set here, just consider hydrogen markets. Today the total addressable market for hydrogen 2022, it's about 115 million tons of hydrogen consumed a year. If you talk to industry experts from financial communities, whether that's BNEF or from large regulatory entities like the EIA, everyone is in agreement that this market is supposed to grow exponentially, right? Not only over the coming decade, but over the coming 3 decades. If you look at what the EIA anticipates, they've got compounded annual growth rate of 9.5% every year moving forward till 2023. And so if you look at projections from people like the Hydrogen Council, which is the consortium of very, very large oil and gas companies, they anticipate hydrogen taking market share for around 20% of all total global energy supply by 2050. And you're seeing a market that's going to double by 2030 and then grow 5-fold by 2050. And so if you're an investor, an investment into American hydrogen is really on the ground floor of being in front of this tide that is coming into this hydrogen market, right? And if you think about where we play on the value chain, there are 3 different business lines: providing technology, hydrogen as a service, so exposure to the commodity, as well as the service-based business where we can turn key facilities for you. You're really getting exposure to the entire value chain within hydrogen, right? And so whether we're sitting here 30 years from now and it's all green hydrogen, that's fine. We have service-based facilities, right, to where we can sell into those markets. So yeah, I think that's really where value lies. It's just we're kind of attacking the whole supply chain, and we're at the ground floor of this growth.
Yeah, very compelling, Stephen, I got to say, and you'll be joined. There's a couple other companies that are going to be talking a little bit about hydrogen in various forms. So we're going to have a panel discussion discussing not only hydrogen but also carbon capture. And I know you have a component with your system related to that as well. So I want to encourage everybody, register, come hear Stephen discuss American Hydrogen, 9:15 a.m. on Thursday, February 17th, in person on campus at the Colorado School of Mines. I really appreciate you joining us, Stephen. Thanks for joining us at the conference. I think it's going to be a great presentation, and we look forward to hosting you here in a few short days.
Yeah, thank you, Dan, and thank you, everyone else. I'm very looking forward to presenting in person at Mines.
You bet. If you want to reach out before the conference and get a hold of Stephen, in the publisher's note above this interview is my email. Be happy to pass along your information and help you and Stephen connect prior to the conference so you can have a more material discussion when you're there. Thanks a lot, Stephen. Have a great day.
Thank you.